That was the most beautifully choreographed fuck you I've seen in Bitcoin. And if anything, this is the most perfect analogy. How do you know that Bitcoin has been securitized? And that is this. This was the most incredibly well orchestrated fuck you I have seen in the marketplace in some time. Where basically, these happen to be all the, the put options. I mean, look at this. This is so blatant. Single digits, hundreds of contracts. Then all of a sudden we jump up into the thousands of contracts up top here. And of course, all of these option contracts, every single one of these is somebody bought an option. So there are bag holders on these puts, and these are options, which means that as of the expiry date, if they're not in the money, poof, they expire worthless. It's remarkable. This is so perfectly choreographed. I couldn't believe it. And then to add insult to injury, that where did they finish the market? $15. So you look at where the heaviest open interest on the calls are. Notice 12,500 contracts at 15. They finished this thing at like 15.20, 15.30, something like that. So as a result, all of these options expiring in the money slightly auto-exercise. So whoever it is, probably the public, bought a whole bunch of these call options. They all got exercised, and Merry Christmas. You now own this BITO, which is basically a Bitcoin ETF, from $15. So, and I notice this is 1 week later, $14.38. So whoever bought you were forced to buy Bitcoin at $15. You're now comfortably underwater by, this is now, 60, 65 cents underwater. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating how they completely finessed all this. In a weird sort of way, you guys were all rah, rah, rah. Well, maybe not you in particular, but definitely people in the past. Oh, wouldn't it be so awesome if we had a Bitcoin ETF? Oh, wouldn't that be the best? I got to say, probably the worst thing that could happen to this space is the Bitcoin ETF. Because now the Bitcoin ETF is now subject to all of these options and all the fuckery that goes on behind the scenes that is not even reported, and the insane market manipulation around this. Now, if you're smart and you understand how this works, this is a license to print money. So the question here is, do any of you want to take advantage of the fact that this is now, in my opinion, very usable, securitized security that really has more to do with the way that they're going to fuck around the derivatives markets than anything to do with value? And of course, the saddest part about all of this is any of us who actually do any homework in the Bitcoin space know exactly what value is. But the problem is market doesn't have to trade at value. In fact, might even make the argument that because this is securitized now, they're probably not even going to let the market trade at value. They're just going to keep fucking around. Theoretically, this is value now, down around 8,000 some odd dollars. And I've shown you guys in the past news articles from Bitcoin mining operations that have tens of thousands of Bitcoin miners, just ridiculous amount of, miners equipment that they're running. And their cost of production is down to $6,000, $7,000. If anything, what I see happening here now is this looks to me like this is more like a trading vehicle than fundamental valuation vehicle. What a big surprise. They brought it down into things like 78.6s. I guess this is 78.6 off of the zero line. But down, into reload zones, right? We say technically players will be reloading near the bottom ends of ranges. Then, of course, you throw in things like the options analysis, and it really shouldn't surprise anybody what they just did here. And then, of course, also, too, just straight price alone, we've talked lots about how there were tons of liquidity pools all up in here and how this was just free money for them if they could go after the stop loss orders. And I think that's exactly what they've done here. I hate to say it, nasty part of the cycle here. This is the part where the public has already been wiped out. The public, of course, came buying in up top here. Smart players, the people that are really, really good at this game, they came in, did some bottom fishing down here. I know we had a group that, Julian in the lounge. Just absolutely owning crypto and KuCoin and all that. While we had this little sort of revaluation move higher here. Are you going to find that the altcoin market maybe goes a little bit quiet here if the Bitcoin market was, basically securitized move, if this move is done? Did find it interesting that right around this sort of peaking event window, technically speaking, this actually looked like a pretty cliche level, eh? Really good analogy, low to high trend line. Man, that worked pretty damn well. Liquidity pools. Look how they went after that liquidity pool. Ran them out. I had been sort of talking about this being a blow-off top window up in here. Ironically enough, this might not even be done. All right, we won't know whether this move is really over until we actually put in some market structure failure, something like that. Like, interestingly enough, if we actually just change this from a bar chart to a line chart, you notice that that's actually a new high there. So really what this could be doing is just, it's obviously big. We can go boop, 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 boop. That's a W. So really, this W is in effect higher highs and higher lows until we actually go and take out that level right there. All of this is just fun and games. You got to give that Paul a big shout out, because you remember 2 or 3 weeks ago, he was like, well, I want to see how price acts against this high right here. And sure enough, as we came dumping into that level, she slowly turned and then cranked back up. So we've gone through this high now. I think that's probably been given. So I would definitely say this level here is probably worth paying attention to. If you were thinking about longs, I like the idea of just drawing a trend line off of that low against that low, or whatever the lowest low is. And then notice, this probably is going to set up some sort of reload zone in here. Notice, could we get a nice little dip, 78.6, 88.6? God, if you've been around TRI a while, you know what's going to happen here. Stuff almost writes itself, man. Then we'll be sort of like, okay, is this actually topping out? And if it is, then what this really implies is a massive head and shoulders pattern, so probably something along those lines. This is going to take some time to develop, folks. This isn't going to happen tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if over the next week or so we do dump into this level. Then we're going to find out whether this is for real. My hunch is, probably going forward over the next, say, month or so, probably going to carve out some sort of massive triangle. While we're going through this triangle process, I don't think there's a hell of a lot to do here right now on the long side. It's dangerous coming in and just sort of calling a bottom right there. The only way I would sort of, think that this was some sort of bottom is if all of a sudden out of nowhere you saw this big honking rally come in and we ended up making like a hammer here, and it just has a huge tail that's just a whole bunch of, basically visual evidence of buyers like this right down in here. That's asking a hell of a lot, considering stock market looks very sanguine. That would basically imply that, this trade holds and we go cranking up and they actually take the market to like unchanged on the day. That's what would have to happen here for that kind of scenario to play out.